Finally getting audited, my sister Jessica announced triumphantly in the family group chat, the message accompanied by a screenshot of an IRS confirmation letter. Reported your fake charity months ago. Maybe now everyone will see what a scam you've been running. My father replied with applause emojis, and my mother added a prayer hands icon, as if reporting your own sister for fraud was some kind of spiritual victory. But why did I simply mute the chat instead of defending myself, and why did the IRS agent who arrived at my office 3 weeks later stop mid-introduction, his credentials frozen in his outstretched hand? He was staring at my wall of photographs, the faces of every veteran our organization had helped over the past 8 years. Ma'am, his voice cracked. I'm in that picture. Second row, third from the left. November 2019. I looked closer. Younger, thinner, eyes hollow with the particular exhaustion of someone who'd lost everything. But unmistakably him. David Reyes? You remember my name? His professional composure shattered entirely. You gave me a home when I had nothing. Your organization is why I'm standing here today, why I'm employed, why I'm alive. He looked at his credentials, then back at the wall. Who reported you for fraud? Because I need to understand how this investigation got assigned to me. Second Chances Veterans Housing had been my life's work for 8 years. I started it after watching a homeless veteran die on a Seattle street corner, a man who served 2 tours in Afghanistan, earned a Bronze Star and ended up sleeping under a bridge because the systems designed to help him had failed completely. His name was Marcus Washington. He was 43 years old. He'd been homeless for 2 years. I'd been a corporate attorney making $280,000 annually, and I'd walked past him every day on my way to work. I'd given him money sometimes, food occasionally, attention never. Then he died, alone, in the rain, and something inside me broke. I quit my job 3 months later. Used my savings to rent a small apartment building. Began housing veterans who'd fallen through the cracks. 8 years later, Second Chances had housed over 1,400 veterans. We'd grown from 1 building to 12 properties. We'd helped veterans access VA benefits, employment services, mental health support, and the basic dignity of having a door to lock behind them. My family had called it a phase at first. Then a waste. Then, apparently, fraud. Jessica had always been the family achiever. Medical school, prestigious residency, successful practice, wealthy husband, beautiful children. She'd followed the path our parents had designed, and she'd succeeded beyond their expectations. I'd followed a different path. Law school had pleased them, but my subsequent choices had not. The corporate career they'd approved of. The nonprofit work they'd tolerated. The decision to pour my own money into housing homeless veterans they'd considered embarrassing. You could be making millions, my father had said during one of our last conversations. Instead, you're living in a rental apartment running a charity. I'm housing veterans who serve this country. You're wasting your potential helping people who couldn't help themselves. They helped defend our freedom. The least we can do is give them a roof. That's the government's job, not yours. The conversation had ended there, but the family resentment had grown. Every media mention of Second Chances was met with silence or subtle criticism. Every award was ignored. Every success was reframed as evidence of my stubbornness or martyr complex. Jessica's fraud report was the culmination of years of disapproval. David Reyes sat in my office, his investigation folder closed on his lap. I need to recuse myself from this case. The conflict of interest is obvious. Before you do, can you tell me what the complaint alleged? He hesitated. I shouldn't. I'm not asking you to share confidential information. I'm asking what my sister accused me of. I'd like to know what I'm defending against. David opened the folder, scanned the first page. The complaint alleges that Second Chances Veterans Housing is operating as a personal enrichment scheme under the guise of charitable work. It claims you've been diverting donated funds for personal use, inflating program costs, and providing substandard housing while collecting premium charitable donations. Personal enrichment. I laughed bitterly. I make $52,000 a year. I drive a 2016 Honda. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. The complaint doesn't mention those details. No, it wouldn't. I showed David our books. Every donation documented. Every expense categorized. Every program cost verified by annual audits conducted by independent accounting firms. We've been audited before, I explained. 3 times in 8 years. Clean reports every time. We operate with a 92% program efficiency ratio. That means 92 cents of every dollar goes directly to housing and services for veterans. That's exceptional. Industry standard is around 75%. I know. I designed our operations specifically to minimize overhead. I take a below-market salary. Our staff works for less than they could earn elsewhere because they believe in the mission. We've housed 1,427 veterans since we started. David looked at the wall of photographs again. I was number 847. You remember your number? I remember everything about that time. I was sleeping in my car after my wife left and I lost my job. The VA was backed up for months. I'd called every shelter, every program, every organization in the city. Everyone was full, or had waiting lists, or had restrictions I didn't qualify for. You called our emergency line. At 2 a.m. I was in a grocery store parking lot, out of gas, out of money, out of hope. His voice caught. Someone answered. Not a recording, a person. She talked to me for 45 minutes. The next morning, someone came to my car with a gas card, a meal, and keys to an apartment. That was Elena. She runs our crisis response. She saved my life. Your organization saved my life. He looked at the folder in his lap. And your sister reported you for fraud. David recused himself from the investigation. A different agent was assigned, a woman named Patricia Holloway who had no connection to our organization. She conducted a thorough investigation, examined our financial records, interviewed staff and program participants, reviewed our audits, and inspected our properties. The investigation lasted 6 weeks. The conclusion was definitive: no evidence of fraud, misappropriation, or any wrongdoing. This is one of the cleanest nonprofit operations I've reviewed, Agent Holloway told me during our final meeting. Your financial controls are excellent. Your program outcomes are exceptional. The complaint appears to have been filed without any legitimate basis. What happens to the person who filed a false report? That depends on whether the false report was filed knowingly and with malicious intent. Filing a false report with the IRS is a federal offense. Jessica's text arrived before I could contact her. So you passed? Probably cooked the books before they arrived. Doesn't change what we know about you. I stared at the message for a long time. My sister had reported me to the IRS, an action that could have destroyed the organization, ended my career, and harmed the 1,400 veterans who'd found homes through our work. She'd done it without evidence, without conversation, without any attempt to understand what I actually did. And she still believed she was right. The family confrontation happened at my mother's birthday dinner. I hadn't intended to come, but my mother had begged, just this once, for me, and I'd relented. Jessica was there with her husband and children. My father was holding court at the head of the table. Everything was normal until dessert. I heard your little charity passed its audit, Jessica said sweetly. Must have hired good accountants. The audit found no wrongdoing because there was no wrongdoing. We both know the truth. What truth, Jessica? That I've housed over 1,400 veterans? That we have a 92% program efficiency ratio? That I make $52,000 a year running an organization that's won national recognition? I set down my fork. What exactly is the truth you think you know? That you're using this charity thing to feel superior. That you've always needed to be the martyr. That you abandoned a successful career to play savior. I abandoned a career that paid well and meant nothing to do work that pays modestly and saves lives, saves lives. She laughed. You give homeless people apartments. That's not saving lives, that's enabling dependency. David Reyes. Who? The IRS agent who came to investigate your fraudulent report. He was one of our program participants. We housed him when he was sleeping in his car. Now he's a federal agent with a career and a family. That's what dependency looks like, apparently. The table had gone quiet. The agent was someone you helped? My mother looked uncomfortable. That seems convenient. It wasn't convenient. It was coincidental. We've housed 1,427 veterans. Some of them have gone on to remarkable careers. David happened to be assigned to investigate the complaint Jessica filed. I filed that complaint because you wanted to hurt me. Because my choices embarrass you. Because you, VE, spent 30 years competing with me and you can't stand that I found something meaningful that has nothing to do with your definition of success. Jessica's response was predictable and revealing. You've always thought you were better than everyone. This charity thing is just another way to look down on people who work normal jobs and live normal lives, who. I don't think I'm better. I think I'm different. Those aren't the same thing. You gave up everything to help strangers. I gave up a paycheck to help veterans who served this country. They're not strangers. They're Marcus Washington, who died under a bridge after earning a Bronze Star. They're David Reyes, who now investigates fraud for the federal government. They're 1,400 people with names and faces and stories that matter. And we don't matter? Your family doesn't matter? My family reported me to the IRS for fraud without evidence. My family sends applause emojis when I'm being investigated. My family has spent 8 years calling my life's work a phase and of waste, and now apparently a scam. I stood. I matter to you only when I fit your expectations. Since I stopped fitting them, I've been an embarrassment to manage, not a person to support. The truth about Jessica's complaint emerged gradually. The investigation had raised questions about her motivations. The complaint had been detailed, specific, and entirely fabricated, the kind of report that suggested personal vendetta rather than genuine concern. Agent Holloway had referred the matter for review. Filing a false report with the IRS was a federal offense. The investigation into my organization had triggered an investigation into my sister. I didn't lie, Jessica insisted when she learned about the referral. I had concerns. You alleged specific acts of fraud that didn't occur. You claimed I was diverting funds when independent audits showed otherwise. You described substandard housing when our properties exceed code requirements. I'd received copies of her complaint through our attorney. You didn't have concerns, Jessica. You had malice. I wanted someone to investigate. You wanted someone to validate your resentment. Instead, they validated my work. The federal investigation into Jessica's false report lasted 4 months. She wasn't criminally charged. The prosecutor determined that proving willful malice beyond reasonable doubt would be difficult. But she received a formal warning, and the false report was documented in federal records. Her medical practice faced its own consequences. When colleagues learned she'd filed a false IRS complaint against her nonprofit-running sister, professional relationships cooled. Referrals declined. The reputation she'd built on being the responsible, successful sibling developed cracks. I took no satisfaction in her difficulties. I just wanted distance. David Reyes became a friend. After the investigation closed, he contacted me, not as an agent, but as a former program participant who wanted to help. He began volunteering at Second Chances, sharing his story with current residents, showing them what was possible on the other side of crisis. When you're in that place, sleeping in your car, wondering if you'll ever recover, you can't imagine having a normal life again, he told our residents during one session. But here I am. Federal employee. Homeowner. Husband. Father. Every step started with someone giving me a chance. Tell them about the phone call, I prompted. 2 a.m. I was ready to give up. Not just on finding housing, on everything. I called the crisis line because I'd seen your flyer, and I figured I'd try one more thing before. He paused. Elena answered. She talked to me like I was a person, not a problem. She said help would arrive in the morning. And it did. That's what saved me, not just the apartment. Being seen. Being heard. Being treated like I mattered. The organization grew stronger after the investigation. The publicity surrounding the false report had an unexpected effect. Donations increased. People who'd never heard of Second Chances learned about our work through news coverage of the investigation and its outcome. Nonprofit vindicated after family member's false fraud report, the headlines read. The story resonated. A sister so consumed by resentment that she'd tried to destroy a legitimate charity. An IRS agent who'd been saved by the organization he was sent to investigate. A nonprofit that emerged from scrutiny with its integrity confirmed. Donations tripled in the following year. We expanded to 3 new cities. We housed another 600 veterans. Jessica's malice had become our marketing. My mother attempted reconciliation 6 months later. Jessica was wrong to file that report. We all know that now. Do you? Because I haven't heard any apologies. I've heard justifications and minimizations, but no one has actually said, I'm sorry for trying to destroy your life's work. We were concerned. You were hostile. There's a difference. When someone you love does something you don't understand, concern looks like asking questions. Hostility looks like filing false federal reports and celebrating when investigations are launched. We didn't understand what you were doing. You never tried to understand. Not once in 8 years did anyone visit our facilities, meet our residents, or ask how the organization actually works. You just decided it was a scam because it didn't fit your definition of success. Can we move forward? Forward to what? A relationship where I pretend the last 8 years didn't happen? Where I ignore that my family actively tried to destroy something that helps veterans? We're still family. Family is supposed to mean support, not sabotage. I'll let you know when I'm ready to redefine what family means with people who reported me to the IRS. The wall of photographs in my office has grown. 1,427 faces when David Reyes walked in. Now over 2,000. Veterans who served, struggled, and found their way back through an organization my family called a scam. Each photograph has a story. The Marine who became a teacher. The Army medic who opened a clinic. The Navy veteran who reconciled with his children. The countless men and women who simply found stability, a job, a home, a reason to keep going. David's photograph is still there, second row, third from left. Beside it now is a second photograph, David and his IRS credentials, shaking my hand at a fundraising gala, living proof that the investment we make in people pays dividends none of us can predict. Jessica and I haven't spoken in 2 years. I hear about her occasionally through my mother, who serves as an uncomfortable bridge between the life I've built and the family I've lost. Her practice recovered. Her reputation stabilized. She's still successful by every metric that matters to her. But she's never apologized. Never acknowledged that her complaint was baseless, her motivations were petty, her actions were harmful. She's moved on as if nothing happened, protected by the family system that always favored her version of success over mine. I've moved on too, not by forgetting, but by building. Every veteran we house is an answer to her accusation. Every life we change is evidence that she was wrong. Marcus Washington's photograph hangs above my desk. I found it years after I started Second Chances, a copy from his VA file, provided by a chaplain who remembered him. He's in uniform, young, before the deployments that broke something inside him. You started this, I tell him sometimes. Your death created something that saved thousands of lives. I wish you could see it. He can't see it, of course. He died under a bridge because people who could have helped walked past, including me. But David Reyes sees it. And the 2,000 other veterans whose faces fill my wall. And the volunteers who give their time, and the donors who give their money, and the staff who give their careers to work that matters. She reported me for fraud. She celebrated when the investigation launched. She told the family chat my charity was a scam, and they applauded her righteousness. Then the IRS agent walked in and saw his own face on my wall, second row, third from the left. A veteran I'd housed when he had nothing. A man who built his life on the foundation we provided. Her fraud report became her indictment. Her malice became my marketing. And her certainty that I was running a scam was answered by 2,000 photographs of veterans who know exactly what Second Chances really is. She wanted to destroy something. Instead, she proved its worth. The agent she sent to investigate became our strongest advocate. The investigation she demanded became our vindication. And the sister she tried to ruin continues building something she'll never understand.